Hello, crafty friends, and welcome back to my channel. Well, 2025 is definitely the year where I'm experimenting with so many new card making techniques and challenging myself with a new technique almost every other day. Today's card project is a very simple ink blended background, but with a slight twist. We will be using charcoal pencil to add some shading to our blended stencil background. Well, before we get started, I would really appreciate if you could take a minute to subscribe to my channel and hit on the bell icon so that you get notified every time I post a new video. Let us first take a look at the stencil that we will be using today. This is the Flowing Drop Stencil by Alteneu. I absolutely love this stencil and I have used it in so many different projects. It creates a really beautiful background. Now here I have an A2 size card panel. I place both my panel and my stencil onto my Altenew sticky mat, which will hold both of these in place while we do some fun ink blending. Now I had to go with my favorite color combination here. I have this very beautiful pink and peachy orange combination ready. I'll be using the Simon Says Stamp Positively Saturated inks in the shade Sweets, Taffy, Blush and Grapefruit. Well, nothing fancy with the ink blending here. I started with blush and sweet towards the center of this card panel. Well, I did cover the entire card panel with this, but just to darken up the edges, I have taffy and grapefruit only on the edges of this card panel. You could definitely use any color combination of your choice. I would also love to try a rainbow color pattern on this card panel, or you could well stick to just one color and create an ombre effect. I also think teals and blues would be an absolute beautiful choice here. Now here you'll see me adding grapefruit just on the edges of the orange shade, and I have taffy to darken up the edges towards the pink shade. This definitely is my favorite part, where I get to peel off the stencil and take a look at how beautiful this design looks. Also, isn't this just an amazing color combination? Now, here's a quick tip. Whenever you peel out your card panel from any kind of sticky mat, I would suggest bending the mat and pulling out the cardstock instead of trying to pull the cardstock from the mat. This ensures that your cardstock does not bend. Now let's get to the fun part. We will be doing some shading on our ink blending background using charcoal pencil. I'm using a soft charcoal pencil here. I also have a sandpaper block and a blending stump. The sandpaper block will help sharpen my pencil. Well, it does not create like a very pointy pencil tip, but it will smoothen out the point. Also, I have a blending stump which is used to blend or smudge and soften the charcoal pencil drawings, thereby creating a very smooth transition and a more realistic look on our card project. Now, this is something where we get a little bit technical. To begin with the shading process, we have to first decide where our light source is coming from. This is just like creating a shadow in the opposite direction to where the light comes from. So let's say the light comes from the bottom of our panel, which means that the light hits all of the upper parts of the little drops, while the back side of the drop, which is the lower side of the drop, does not get any light. And that's where our shadow will fall. So we can start adding little shadows there. Now, this is something I learned while I was coloring each of those drops. When you use charcoal for coloring, one of the key techniques to master is smudging, which adds depth and dimension to your artwork. To create a more realistic, shadowy look, you can smudge the charcoal with a blending stump, which blends and softens the markers, giving it a more smooth and natural look. To further enhance the shadows, you can also use a rolled piece of paper or even your finger to carefully smudge and blend the charcoal, allowing the shades to mix and flow together seamlessly, creating a beautiful shadow effect. But since these drops were very small and intricate, I didn't end up using my finger. I just used the stump to blend all the charcoal. Now we are using a stenciled design here, but you can also use your smudging technique to create delicate texture of any floral images or other intricate details, adding a sense of realism and depth to your design. However, charcoal is a very messy medium, so it smudges easily. You must be careful not to accidentally wipe away your hand at work and disturb all those delicate little details that you've created. I have my eraser handy just to make sure I can quickly erase off any of those smudges. When working with charcoal pencil, it's important to know that soft pencils, which have least binder, produce the darker images as compared to the harder pencils. Now, here I'm using a soft pencil. Now, I wanted a more darker, detailed image. That's the reason I use the softer pencil. Well, I've also read that when instead of sharpening your charcoal pencil, it is better to use a knife to sharpen it. That gives it a more finer and controlled point and prevents breakage. Now, the tips on these charcoal pencils are really soft, and with the sharpener, it did break a lot. One by one, I added shading to each of these drops, keeping in mind that my shadows are all in one direction and not in the opposite side. Well, I must say, I did take a long time to do my first couple of drops, but once I got the hang of it, it was really easy and fun. Another very important thing that I would like to mention here is that if you're someone who does not like squeaky sounds or maybe accidentally scratching your nails on the chalkboard sound, this technique is not for you. As you blend the pencil mark with the paper stump, it creates a squeaky noise, which can be a little intimidating for some. I love how gorgeous this panel turned out. Well, rather than having just a single dimension ink blended background, we have now created a beautiful colorful background with so much shadow, depth, and dimension. This is definitely a technique that I would want to try with, I think, almost all of my stencils now. Now that our background is ready, all we need to do is add a sentiment and we can call this card done. Now I'm using the bold thanks die set by Altenew. I cut the word thanks using black cardstock, and for my shadow I have white cardstock. Now our background is so beautifully done, but well, it's a busy background. And I felt that my sentiment was kind of lost in all that depth and dimension. Easy way to highlight your focal point or your sentiment and pop them up on a busy background is by adding a strip of vellum. Vellum will not only tone down your busy background, but will also pop up your focal points or your sentiments that is placed on it. I got a strip of vellum which was slightly bigger than my sentiment and created a belly band for my background panel. I adhered my sentiment using some foam tape and added some Prism Positively Dazzling Gems by Simon Stamp, and we can call this card done. I love how beautiful this card has turned out, and this is a technique, well, I will definitely be trying and working more on, not just with stencils, but also with stamped and colored images too. Well, thank you for joining me today. I hope you had fun watching today's video and got inspired. All the supplies that I used to create this card project will be linked down in the description box below. Please note that all of those links are affiliate links, which means that if you shop using one of my links, I get a small commission at no cost to you guys. I will also have links to my blog post, which will have additional information about this card project and the technique that is used. Well, thank you again for joining me today. Until next time, stay safe.